are from Washington County, and they are doing this presentation in memory of Kerry. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. So this is a presentation that I'm actually really excited to share. The other one was kind of like all of her content, and this is something that was a labor of love for me, especially. She did a lot of the groundwork. You're going to hear a lot of Kerry's voice, see a lot of videos. I had the honor of being able to work next to her as we were starting this project. But we want to kind of give you a little backstory as to why we started a district-wide implementation of AAC.
Let's go. Okay, so let's just get an idea of what kind of people we have in our audience. So how many of you are speech language pathologists? How many of you are OTs or PTs? How many of you are teachers? How many of you are parents? Okay, so in our district, I am so lucky that I have so many students in my life skills class, and they all need different varieties of assistive technology, from switches to using just pictures or something really simple to using Proloquo on iPads. But when I started, we were using some of everything. And at the time, Cough Drop was just coming out. And so we were trying to do that. And I was programming all of my lessons on Cough Drop, and then it never failed. It's kind of like our conference. I'd go to use it, and then it didn't work. And I had a student who had Proloquo. I had a couple of students who had Proloquo, and guess what? Their stuff was always working, and we didn't have a problem. And maybe for me, because I'm not super tech savvy, it was really hard to be switching between so many different levels and being able to support all of my kids. And it was difficult for our staff. We have a lot of paraprofessionals. I know they are the ones that are in the trenches, and they are with those kids all the time implementing the programs that we're asking them to do. And so I might see that kid 30 minutes a week, but they are going to have that kid for hours in a day. So I need their buy-in. And so we were trying to come up with, what do we do as a district? And probably a lot of it was because I threw a fit. Angela can attest to that. And it wasn't just me. I had a really great life skills teacher that was fully 100% invested with me and wanted our kids to have communication and be successful, because we see behaviors decrease. We see that they are regulated and able to learn when they have an ability to communicate. So we met as a team, and we're trying to figure out, do we do a district-wide program for our district AAC program? And at the time, we did choose Proloquo to go. And the reason being is because we already had a lot of people using that, and it was super easy for our paras and support staff and teachers to use.
Yeah, we actually did a trial with LAMP and SnapCore and Proloquo and Cough Drop, and all of the feedback from the teachers and the paras, they liked Proloquo better. So this was 5-6 years ago. So we decided as a district, that was going to be our main AAC app that we would use. We also use GoTalk now on the iPad for lower kids, and then obviously low-tech technology too. So, but we made this decision because we were thinking that hopefully over time, as kids went from preschool to elementary, or if they transferred within our district, we're all using the same program. It's like having one curriculum instead of 20. And so it lessens the load on all of the teachers and the paraprofessionals and even the SLPs, because we only have to really learn one program really well. So that's where we started. We have about, with high schools and everything, I think about 60 schools, including our preschools.
So just one last thing. So when we started this, I was doing a bunch of initial evaluations for assistive technology with my kindergartners. Now my kids, because we really pushed this, they're going to get into this a little bit more, but we really started in the preschool. which was also a fight to convince to convince preschool and to convince administration that we are going to give all of this technology to preschool. And the reason being is because if we start really young, they either grow and they don't need that much level of support anymore, or they already have it and are using it and are successful. So then when they transition to a school, they're already functioning and able to use their device. So it's been super great. That's my favorite part.
And I will say as an AAC, so Kerry, our colleague, worked in the preschools. And so she was on our UAT team, and she was the one who would make sure all of the evaluations, UAT evaluations got done at the preschool. So honestly, since we've implemented this, we went from, 20 or 30 UAT evaluations a year to maybe 2 or 3 that aren't preschool. Because now most of our UAT evaluations happen when they're in preschool or if they come to the district or something. But if they're in our district from preschool, we get them as soon as they're 3.
So overall, it's been more effective time. It was not without a fight. You guys can sit down if you want. I'll pull you up if you need.
Like, you got it, girl.
I was like, you guys can be up here, but let's be honest. You guys don't know really what's on these slides. And I'm not part of the UAT team, everybody. So don't let your friends pass away because it really sucks. Not that any of us had a choice in it, but the reason we are wanting to emphasize the use of AAC, we're preaching to the choir here, right? You guys know the importance of it and the benefits of it. Here is up to 90% of individuals who rely on AAC enter adulthood without acquiring functional literacy skills. So when we're talking to preschools now are more about academics, less about, like the fun preschools that we remember when we were younger. They're still a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but they needed a buy-in too. Why are we going to do all this work? What's going to be the benefit? And so the way it was kind of approached is this is going to help with their literacy as well, because not only does it benefit the AAC user, but it also benefits everybody that is around it and exposed to it. So our end goal is oral language. Using a device takes so much more effort and energy, but using that device is a bridge. So we want the children to talk. We don't want us to be the ones talking for them. And also learning to read is very interactive. It is not just you sit down and you have a page and you read it. So we have these foundational skills for literacy. Our district has also been sending teachers to a program called Letters. So this comes from that. You have oral language plus phonological processing plus print knowledge before you can even be able to read. Okay, so you have to be able to identify the picture, recognize symbols, point to words, all of that. That's what we're doing with our AAC devices. They're looking at the picture. It has the word with it. They're doing the one-on-one. They push the button. It says the word. They repeat the word. So it has all of these wonderful things that helps them towards literacy. It helps them towards recognizing print as well. Phonological processing and print knowledge. It is a huge indicator of success for future reading. Now we have our verbal words represent pictures. And this is where it's kind of backwards. And the teachers who've been going to the letters program, they're like, oh, because their approach is always, well, they have to know the letters so they can learn their sounds, so they can learn to read. Well, coming from a speech perspective, if you don't have sounds, what good is a letter, right? So you have a word represents and has meaning. It's not just a bunch of sounds. So you associate like a mental picture in our brains. Like if you think of a cat, you know what a cat looks like, and it has that purpose. And so you have the representation of the pictures. The words are made up of those sounds. And then we have an icon that represents them. Is that not AAC right here? Is that not the things that we're looking at? So like if we're wanting to read the word go, so we have our picture, we have the letters, we have the sounds. When you push the button, it makes the sounds. If you push the G and then you push the O, it makes the G, then the O, And then when you push the title across the top, it says go. So you have all of these different things. So like yesterday, I don't know if you were at our presentation, we worked really hard to get the technology to work today. So I'm like, this is a no-go if it doesn't happen. So if you don't have that core strength, you can't have your fine motor movement. If you don't have these fundamentals, if you don't know what the words mean and what the meaning of it is, then it's not gonna, it doesn't matter what those words are. We all can hear foreign language and go, uh-huh. None of us know what it means. So unless you actually know that language. We understand the importance of universal core, being able to have highly functional words. I had a kindergarten teacher tell me there were like 45 of their 75 sight words on the main page of Proloquo. Now, another reason we went with Proloquo is they are really, really, really easy to work with. Now, as a speech language pathologist, when I've gone to my classes, this is not the top of the line end all. If you're going to be on a device for life, this is not the one that we're going to use. But most of our kids in the school district are not going to be on a device for life. And if they are, we 100% support whatever device they bring. But by having teachers be more familiar with something like this, when they come in with their own device, then they're able to figure it out a little bit more. It's kind of like those, those learning steps as you go along. So here's an example of one of our paras using it as a way to increase phonemic awareness.
We're gonna have to give you different ones. We're not gonna copy him. Okay, ready? It's like the roller coaster. We're gonna go up right here. What's the middle sound? And hiss. There we go. And then we drop. Which one? Find it. Let's see. Touch it. That's it. Yeah. See? Yes. Okay. Here we go. Pat. Your name tag. Which one is it? What's the middle sound? You are too good with this game.
Now, she probably didn't need a device, but was it a good learning tool? Was it engaging for her? And they have the visual, so the teachers are engaging. It's teaching on more than just the written level. This is fully immersed. So more screen time. Do we really want kids having more screen time? It is what's happening now, right? Learning from screens is a major part of the majority of young student lives. Anyone born 1997 and after has never lived in a world without a smartphone. That's mind-boggling to me. Their brains are wired differently. They think and process in pictures and videotapes, as the main show was supported auditory information in conjunction with visual. They use touch screens, enhancing the learning with tactile and kinesthetic feedback. How many times do you see a kid like touch a screen and if it doesn't respond, they're like, what's wrong? It's like, it's a monitor. It's not supposed to do anything. Like, don't touch the TV. You're going to leave fingerprints. But they are so interactive now. But there is a difference between handing a child a screen for leisure academic learning and communicative function. So that's where the big difference is. Visual communication results in better retention of the information. You have, and then if you have the device talking to you too, you've got that visual, you've got the auditory, and you have that interaction. From a scientific perspective, it's been found that using relevant visuals helps the audience remember the information more effectively. Of all information transmitted to the brain, 90% is visual. And that's from Project Core. Oh, I should not touch that. Sorry, I need to come over here. This is what happens when you have too many notes on a screen. Okay, so the visuals allow processing time and enhancing retention of information. When kids take in information, they see much more than the person who communicates it to them. We look at body language, we consider the tone of voice, emotion, and the child's perception of their teacher will come into play. So it can either prohibit the information or it can enhance the information. An image can show exactly what is required. How many times do we have those visual schedules so the kids know what it is? It reduces the ambiguity of the verbal instructions and that the instructions may imply as the child processes language and intent. So it also helps them make associations between the different pieces of information, and then function as a memory aid, and we learn in chunks of content. This one I'm going to read. There's just one you can't paraphrase because it's very powerful. Today's communication apps are seldom intuitive. When children and adults are not taught how to use them, AAC technologies gather dust on a shelf. We've all experienced that. You come in, oh, time to get your device, and I'm glad it's charged, but take it out of the charging station and put it on their desk, right? High quality instruction for the person using the app and for the other communication partners, family members, educators, peers is essential to promote successful communication. So this is another reason that we wanted to be able to have kind of a universal program so that our teachers can use it, can implement it, can be associated with it. The person using AAC needs to be taught not only how to operate the technology, but also the basics of communication, whom to talk with, when to talk, which words to use, and how to put sentences and stories together. While it may be more intuitive for us who have the language, we can put sentences together, but somebody who is building that language foundation, they need to be taught, they need to have it modeled for them. And everyone else also needs to learn how to communicate with the children who use AAC. Even simple interventions that teach adults and peers how to provide extra time for communication and how to model communicating using the device can have dramatic positive impacts on communication. These practical actions help communication partners identify context for using AAC. So when we use it, they go, oh, I didn't think about that. How many times have we learned something watching somebody else do it, right? And we get ideas and think, oh, if that works in that way, maybe I could implement it in this other situation. It helps create opportunities for using it and practice using apps and other solutions in specific everyday activities, from reading a story to getting dressed. Okay, so this is something we have to consciously, intentionally use. We can't just teach and say, go do. This is something we have to intentionally incorporate into everything. So this is Kerry. Many of you probably have known her. She has been to these for years and years. This is kind of her vision, and I'm going to let her say it.
Really what I'm presenting is our journey, right? That this is a journey. Yeah, it is. And that it's a wild hair idea. Does Kerry need 40 iPads, really? Yes.
Yes, I do.
Right, yes, I do. I actually need more, right? And in the beginning, that was it. It was just like, really? This year, they gave me 20. I asked for 5.
Oh, nice.
So I'm working with the elementary part to say, what do we need to put in place so that we aren't hitting this wall, knowing that I felt like I was hitting a wall for probably 2 full years, maybe 3.
Okay, this has not been an easy process. This is totally worth every effort that we've put into it, but I'm not going to stand up in here and say, oh yeah, you can totally, it's a piece of cake. The buy-in is absolutely necessary. And this is something that Kerry was very, very passionate about. She is a defender of little people, and the more complex, the bigger her heart. So this is, sorry, I'm going to try really hard not to get choked up, but this is also something that, like I said, I got to work with her. She was my mentor when I first started as an SLT, and I am so grateful for her example and her passion. Okay, so as far as what we were thinking about it looking like in the classroom, we want it to be functional. We want it to be uniform so that the whole district can be familiar with it. We need training, trained staff. We need not only trained SLPs, we need trained teachers, we need paras, we need RBTs, we need all of our behavior team, our OTs, our PTs, everybody. Everybody that works with these children needs to be aware of it and implementing it. And it's especially used a lot and helpful in life skills. Okay, so for universal core vocabulary, we all know we've got limited time. We talked about the impact it's had on you at evals. I saw a couple heads nodding when you went, wow, you went from how many down to like 2 or 3? I mean, that right there is like, wait, how? I could not be running around trying to put out fires for everybody else. Using multiple interfaces was just hard, you know, and the teachers were asking him to do one more thing, right? And it's like, are you kidding me? Okay, here we go. So you're getting teacher pushback. They need the para support, insufficient training, like all of these things. This is why we said, hey, we've got to make a change. This is from Project Core, which is through the University of North Carolina. So this right here, their website on it, these are actual modules where you can have anybody go in and they click on it and you go through a whole module on using AAC on these different areas. So if you want to have training within your district, you know, I'm like, can we do these instead of safe schools? I don't know if you guys do safe schools, but we're always like, okay, we do the same ones over and over. Can we do something that's maybe a little bit more applicable? Yes. Yes, these are free. So if you go to the Project Core website, and there's more, like these are 6 through 12 that apply directly. The first 5 are more of like introductory ones that I figure anybody at the UAT probably doesn't need those introductory of why we need the devices or technology. So this is an amazing website. Okay, so at this point, good, we're good on time. I am going to turn the time over to all of our people. There's a lot of video, but I figured who can tell the story better than the people living in the trenches. So if you have any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. We can stop and talk about things. There's several different videos, but this is a series of interviews that Kerry did with her teachers, people that are in the preschool who lived this over the last, we really started implementing Proloco about 5 years ago. It was right before 2020. It was 2020-21 school year. So that was, no, 19-20 school year, because that's when everything went crazy. But this is how it began.
Like 10 of my 15 years or so were in classroom D with the severe. And unfortunately, we didn't know any better than just doing like signs. What is it called?
Sign language.
Sign language, and I wasn't very good at it, so it was very minimal that I was able to help the students with low communication skills, or even like non-talking, non-verbal at all. And so a lot of that I remember us doing was just imitation, 1 or 2 step imitation, which even that for the non-speaking or non-verbal was, if they didn't have the skill to imitate, then there was no way for them to really communicate with us. And I can probably look back and see all their frustration, and they would just take it out in behavior, and for us it would be like, oh, they're having behavior. But at that time I didn't know any better how to help them.
Okay, so they're talking about what it was like before they started all of the intervention, or all of the devices.
We had PECs back then.
Yeah,
for
that
snack,
is true.
but we didn't really use the PECs in communications of telling how they felt, or
No,
but we used PECs, but it was mostly just for snack.
and it had to
Not
be
for
taught
anything.
too.
Yeah.
And a lot of them didn't want, it was, I said it was a process, like they had to be able to take it off, show it, give it back. So I don't know, I don't think it would work with higher students, cognitive wise, and the other ones, we had to be hand over hand, and we didn't really know if that's what they wanted, but we were doing hand over hand.
Who has used PECs? Okay, who feels like that's the only thing that a kid should ever have, right? It's beneficial, absolutely, and it has its place, but it's a starting point.
That was receptively, so you'd put your 3 out, fine, and whatever. But we're finding that these kids don't want to point to things. They want to just clear the table. If you put 3 cards in front of them, they're going to clear the table.
Right? I don't know anybody else feel that? That's what happens with me. Okay, so these are some of the difficulties that we experienced with adopting AAC. These 2 teachers that are here, I think one's a para and one's a teacher, and they are new. So this was done probably September, October. They started in August. So these are people brand new in the trenches being first exposed to a device and kids needing devices.
More of a burden to use it when I'm not familiar with it versus if I got better at it and was more familiar, I could be a lot faster to get in and help the child to use it. And then I can also go back and help the other kids who aren't using a device. Then I can feel like I have more control. And for me, that's the biggest thing, is feeling like I've lost control of the kids if I have too many distractions, and the device being one of them. So.
Okay, very valid, right? It's hard to manage the classroom and manage devices. I failed miserably yesterday trying to do a presentation and manage technology. It's in our nature. Those things are hard.
I'll say, as a 3rd year para, I never got tutorial on how to use the devices, so I had to figure it out myself. And I feel like listening to them and like looking back, I'm like, that would have helped me so much, because now I can sit down and do it with them, and I'm the teacher that they're looking at saying, oh, like, how is she doing that? But it took me until this year really to know how to do it.
Okay, 3 years before she feels comfortable doing it. Do you feel like that's realistic? Right? Okay, so this is the reality. And these teachers, I love them for being so brutally honest with us. This is the reality of us asking them to implement change.
We'll put it right here so it looks like we're using it, but we are not. And as sad as it sounds, that's how it was.
Okay, so we gave everybody big Proloco posters to be able to put in their room. You know, yeah, it's here.
You need to believe that it works. If you don't believe it, it's just an extra thing to your schedule, and it's a burden because you don't want to do it. And most of the time it won't get done.
Right?
Yeah. So when you very first were trying to do it, how was juggling everything?
It was pushed to the side because it wasn't, if that makes any sense, it wasn't a priority until I realized it was a priority.
Right.
And so because it was foreign, I didn't know anything on those screens, and I couldn't find anything, and it was just like, by the time I'd lost her behaviors.
Okay. So that teacher there, her name is Penny. She is our champion. If you want to watch somebody utilize AAC, she's the one to go watch. Her observations, it is absolutely amazing. And it doesn't become a priority until it is. Okay?
You have to see the benefits of the iPad in action and how it helps the student to really capture the vision, or you don't have buy-in. It's just one more thing, and it's hard for teachers, but once they see it, the benefits of implementing it, and they see the success from it and how much actually easier it is for your classroom, then you have the buy-in.
You have to believe in it.
Would you guys agree with that? How do you get the teacher to do the buy-in though? That's the hard part.
We have one outside in the playground, and for me it was an eye-opening to see our speech students using Proloco and speech to go to the poster out there and talking to me using those pictures. I was like, oh, they know they can use this. And that's when I felt ashamed,
because we weren't giving them that. But for me to see them going to the poster, because that was their way to communicate without a device, yeah, it was an eye-opening for me and say, wow, I'm horrible.
It's when you first experience
it. Yeah, so she says, wow, I'm horrible. Because she saw, and she's amazing, but it wasn't important to her until she saw how the kids really could benefit and how it connected with her, right? So this also has the students, they can initiate their own learning.
And we also had a so high one that if he couldn't find it, he would go and search it.
Yeah.
Because he was that high. But like what Miss Mara was saying, we had not been able to know that unless he had the device to show us, hey, I got it all here. I just can't tell you. But he would teach me.
Okay, for teachers being able to get the information out that they are just trying desperately to pull from kids. You know, it's like, I know you know, but how can you know that you know? And how can you tell me that you know? So these are some clips of some of our kiddos using it.
What doing? Some different. Oh, do you want to do something different?
Okay. Did you see that face as soon as she acknowledged, oh, you want something different? He's like, yes. Okay. Engaged learner right there. Okay, so this is just a simple little pocket. They've got this Proloco icons, and they go through, and as the video goes on, he starts talking about like the red goes up, blue goes over, and they're going through like their morning routine, using the devices, just playing with it, using words, just playing. Why not have it be part of your play center? They're playing with words and learning. So implementing it in the classroom. Okay, it's one thing to be able to do it in a small little session. How do you do it in the classroom when we've got some teachers in here? You are orchestrating many people at once. It's not just this one-on-one and trying to take everybody's needs and concern.
it's a little bit of a slower pace, but in reality, you have students of all differing abilities. So you have some that have processing disorders. It's the same thing. To me, it's no different than if you didn't have devices and you had someone that had processing and you're asking them a question and you're giving them that time to answer. You wouldn't just move on quickly. So McKinley's really respectful and allows them to find it on their device to be able to answer. And I don't think your lesson may take just a little bit longer, but it really doesn't interrupt the lesson.
No, not
or
really.
the pacing that bad.
They respond to them more than if I do the gestures myself. I feel like they'll look at the picture and then they right away self-correct. So I feel like these are handy and they're quick and easy to use.
Okay, so for our brand new teachers, low tech is the thing she's most comfortable using. Guess what? She's still using some kind of communication. She's still doing it. We can't push people to do more than they're comfortable doing, right? You can try, but you're just going to get pushed back. So we have low tech for a reason. Not everybody's ready for high tech, including teachers. So you have to remember, it's like, as we're doing this, this is a process. And so if it took our para 3 years to learn it, as she's seeing it modeled and seeing it done, you know, you have to allow yourself grace, allow your teachers grace, and let them know, hey, this is a process and it's okay.
Sometimes he would be talking, just like the rest of our kids, and we would show him we have quiet mouth. And so we would show him we have quiet mouth, and we would face his device down, and he did not like that. Because that was his talking, that was like, no one can tell me to not talk. And so it was good that Monica said, well, that's his right, he's talking. So we would bring a different device that I would say, this is mine, I'm not talking. And so then he learned, oh, it's time to have it face down. So it takes practice, but that's an eye-opening for me too. I mean, that's how they talk. So you need to be respectful about that too, and you can't just take it away, because no one can take my right to talking. So it's been such a great learning experience.
Hey, I love this example. We always teach him, yeah, just turn it over. It's quiet time. But he didn't like it. He freaked out, right? That's what most kids do. So what'd she do? She modeled it with her own device. This is what I'm trying to show you. When I put this down, it's quiet time. And then he made the connection. Oh, you're not just taking it away from me. This means quiet time. Because like I've had teachers ask me, well, what do you do when they're doing it? I'm like, what do you do with your other kids? What do you do when they're sitting at the rug talking? You have to do the same thing. You have to teach them until they understand. And I love how she said, okay, so I got another device. This one's mine. And taught the concept. Because now it's not, oh, I'm just getting it taken away. It's, I've got that visual for that meaning of that word. Right? So like that goes back to the whole literacy thing too. We may not be reading words, but we're putting meaning to these concepts.
Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. Riker wants to, Riker? Nice job. Rain, rain, go away.
Okay, so there's lots of ways you can just implement it throughout your day. And these are just some examples of teachers doing some different things, okay?
When I've watched other teachers using the device and they're comfortable with it, I feel like they're kind of modeling it for me and showing me how I can work with the child to use that. So I kind of like to look over their shoulder and see, oh, they're pressing that button. Oh, they're going here. Oh, the child's doing this. And so it's kind of like that role modeling. That helps too, to make me feel like, oh, okay, so I could do that the next time I have a child.
Okay, so for an example, last year I had a kid. So in my elementary school that I'm at right now, we have 12 on devices. Not all are in the severe classroom. And so this one teacher had 3 different kids on devices. And so I put a Proloquo poster in her room, and we did like the word of the week, you know, so she could just kind of emphasize it, put it outside the door to kind of get everybody more familiar. But then on Fridays, I would go in and I would read a story, and I would use the device. And sometimes I would highlight 1 or 2 words. Sometimes I'd have a book prepared. Sometimes I'd come in and say, do you have a story you want me to read? So that she could see, like, this is a way you can use it. And then I would just kind of implement it and do it kind of on the fly. So I was modeling for the teachers and then also the students. And guess what? The students, the peers, they're amazing. They started asking questions. Wait, do that again? How do you do that? And wait, does he have this? He can do that on this? And it became more engaging. And so instead of being different, because if we have 12 kids on devices that are in regular classrooms, let's make it the normal thing. And it's going to be all around the school, so everybody sees it all the time, right? Okay, so again, this is Penny. And we started with paper boards. We didn't start with a million iPads. We had to get the buy-in to be able to convince the district, hey, we need this money to go to this technology, to preschool and not district-wide, right? And so we started with just the simple paper boards. And so this is kind of what she's talking about.
Then we would just have the paper core boards. And so we'd have paper core boards all over. And it wasn't till Kerry actually showed me, I actually sat and watched her do one in the class, and she was just talking with her hand the whole time. So I thought, okay, that's what you do, just because it's not making a noise. She's making the noise for that piece of paper. But again, now we have 5 iPads with Proloquo in the classroom. We don't kind of use those. I use this main one because I have my hands free and I'm teaching. So this one is good. This one is good. It's not bad. It's good. It's good. I don't know if you're on there. But so it did take a while, but once you do it, and it just comes naturally.
Okay, so when she says we're not really using them, she's talking about the paper boards. They use the 6 iPads all the time. So this is an example of using just a talking button. Okay, I want you to watch. This kid is just adorable.
Oh, watch, James. Tell your friend what to do. Line up on a blue foot. Right. Let's tell Winter. Oh, sorry. James is going to tell Winter. Line up on a blue foot. Oh, James, what does she need to do? I up the blue foot. Good.
Okay, so he's stimming. He's so excited. And then line up on blue foot. He can say that after he's been given it. But if you would just say, hey, tell your friends what to do. And we could, we have so many kids that are prompt dependent. So we want to make them as independent as possible. If we can remove ourselves a little bit by having the button talk for us, they'll totally imitate it. And he was so excited. And the peers did exactly what he asked them to do.
Years later, now that I'm in an AB classroom and starting to really use and learn how to use them, it was scary at first, but now I'm not scared of them, and I feel sad for all the years I didn't use them with the children that really needed them. And it's not just for children that are non-speaking, for ELL students, for all students, low cognitive, or it's for all students, basically.
Every one of them
Every one
are
of them
learning
can
English.
benefit from it.
Yeah.
Hey. Yes.
If it's a learning curve for all of them in the classroom, help set up, like once it's on like she had all her symbols. Did you provide all that? Did you provide everything? And did it take time to set?
Yes.
Like when she awareness, like she had her own iPad, it wasn't the students. So did the parents have their iPads?
Yes. It's a lot of work. It's a big process. So for people online, she said, did we set up the classrooms? Did we provide all the materials? Did we provide the iPads? Garrett. So those are the 6 classroom iPads that stay in that classroom so that there's one available at every station. Okay. So the question was, were those 6 iPads for students or 6 iPads in the classroom? So when we first started, we didn't have a ton of the resources yet. We were saying, let's do this. So we started with printing the 8.5 by 11 paper core. There's a really good one they have that's the 4 pages. So one page has like emotions, one page has the yes, no, all those different things. And we put those around. During COVID, I have 6 kids and 5 of them were home, and all 5 of them and my husband had COVID. So I had to stay home too. And so I went down a really deep rabbit hole of taking pictures of icons. I would screenshot, crop, screenshot, crop. So we have access to all these so that we can, now we're not using them for commercial gain, but we're just wanting to be able to make them so that we can use them for different things, right? Around the classroom. So we have our RBTs. Everybody has, we have like this social emotional well-being. Those go along with them. Some of them have like the social emotional picture and then a Proloquo icon on the back so they can make that association. It has been a long process, and it was kind of like, where is a need? Act on it in the moment. I would get emails from teachers saying, hey, can I get this food for my snack time? So that they could have it available. And it was more of a PEX, because the core board doesn't have your fringe warts. But as we start using it more and engaging more, and then as they got more comfortable using it, the first few years we slowly implemented, every time we could. COVID money was nice. We got some extra ones, so a lot of them went to the preschool. But like Kerry said, she asked for 5 and they gave her 20. Yes, it was a fight, and it does take a lot of people saying, no, this is really what we need. This is not going to go to waste. This is absolutely necessary. But as we continue on, you kind of hear about some of the results that have come from this as well. Thank you for your question.
If they're taught at a younger age how valuable they are for their communication in their daily day, they use it. It's like us, if they tell me not to talk, how would I do that? I wouldn't be able to, you know, like you can't talk. I think that's how he felt. I won't be able to talk because I don't have it with me. And he would cry. And so if they learn at a very young age how valuable that is for them, they learn that, and that's their talk. That's how they talk.
I love that she says that she's teaching the value of their voice. Don't we all want to be heard? And if you're teaching them at a young age that what you have to say is important enough for you to communicate, and I'm going to put in the effort to be able to listen and to be able to help you get your message across. That's something that they will take. I mean, how empowered are you when you feel like you're being heard?
But I feel like them having the iPads, I've been able to connect with them more because, like Myrna said, you know how they're feeling, you know their emotions more, and you're able to connect with them that way other than just like, I can't talk to you and you can't talk to me. Like, I can never imagine not using the iPads. I feel like they've benefited us in so many ways.
Okay, I see you're frustrated, or how are you feeling? Tell me. And then they're able to see I'm sad. And it feels so good that they can tell us I'm sad, and then we can say, oh, thank you so much for telling me you're sad. And just telling them that, like acknowledging and understanding how they're feeling, that makes them feel better.
Yes.
Okay, so just talking about like, so you have classroom ones that give each adult access to one throughout for modeling and access for the kids. But we talk about the little guy who was like, these are my words. And then at what point are you guys like saying, hey, this is dedicated for this student? Like, do you have a guidelines for when you decide that?
That's where UAT comes into play, and they get their own device. And it is not a classroom device. It is not a teacher device. It is their personal device. We do trials with the classroom devices. We do trials with the information we have to determine, is this kid ready for a device? And as soon as we have that data, because they're using it all the time and we're seeing the benefit, how hard is it to get data for your UAT teams? Right? So this is already right here. It's implemented. And so as soon as we have a reason to believe that this child will benefit from it, then we start that process and we get them a device. Well, it's for the people on Zoom.
I guess my question is, you've got classroom devices and now you're getting individual devices that now belong to the student, right? Goes home with them, moves with them from building to building. Where are you getting the funding? Is your district that kind and generous that they're buying those, or you have some, right? You notice ours is, where are you getting the funding for those devices?
Yeah, let's grab the mic up there and answer that one. I'm not on the UAT team, so she gets to do that one.
So we get so much funding for our UAT team every year. So I would say 75% of all of our budget goes to buying new iPads. And now we're into this 5 years. We're like, we have to start recycling, like, because the older iPads are ready to be taken out of the system. And so we spend most of our money buying iPads. The district also sets aside $5,000 every year for technology for students. So sometimes I have to buy a large touch screen computer for a deaf or a blind, visually impaired student. But most of the time, I would say 75% of that budget also goes to iPads. So on average, we're probably buying another 20 to 25 iPads every year with that money. But what really helped was COVID, because we did get a lot of extra funds from COVID.
And if they qualify for their own device through insurance,
Oh,
then it becomes theirs as well.
yes.
So there's that part too. So it's not all of our
Yeah,
responsibility.
I completely forgot about that. So when we're like, this kid needs a device, and so we will contact the parents, get their buy-in. Most of the time they're just like overjoyed, but we go through AbleNet because they're the only one that will put Proloquo on a device through insurance. And it's a super slick, easy process. You get the parents sign a form saying that they can access their medical record or information. We get a front and back of their insurance card, and we send it to AbleNet. Within 2 business days, they come back and say, your insurance will cover it, and it will be a $500 copay, or it's a $5,000 deductible that you have to pay. So once we get that back, then we either go with AbleNet and get then the student actually owns a device. But if it's too much, then we issue them a UAT device or a SPED device.
Okay, so question here.
So it looks kind of like in the preschool, you're making AAC a UDL, right? Like everybody has access to it. How is that translating when they move into like a life skills unit or in your like K-12 unit? Like, are your life skills classrooms using this? How is that transferred? I guess
it depends on the
farther up.
school and the teacher, but I'm going to let Shaleace answer this one.
Yes and no. We have done a lot of district trainings, and a lot of it is their comfort level too. So they're starting over. I've had a few different life skills teachers, so I've seen the major change, right? So the original teacher that I had that was full in it with me, like we just were gonna conquer the world together through AAC. So, and then we all move on and do different things. And so there is a lot more training and support. The thing that has saved me at my school is that I have the same paras that I had with previous teachers. And so I already have buy-in with them. So they are the ones that are like, I need an icon for this. I need this. Can you help with this? And they're coming to me with things because they're seeing where the breakdown is happening with behavior because they've been there consistently through all of it. So that is super helpful. We do continue to need to bridge that gap, but I will tell you it is so much easier than when I was getting all these littles coming into kindergarten and there wasn't a consistent system. And then I have preschool through 5th grade and a high school at the same time. And I had to figure it all out, right? And I'm one person. And I was like, this is impossible. So it still is a work in progress.
And the other thing that we've been doing too as a district is we've been working really, really hard to get our SLP caseloads down so they actually have the time to do this. So if any of you guys want to come and work in Washington County School District, it's the best. Our average caseload is 67. And with that, you get 20 hours of support. So you get a 20-hour SLT or a 20-hour a week para. So we try to actually give our SLPs the time and the resources so they can actually try to implement this. Because what we're finding is that as we do all of this, we're having so much, parents' complaints are going down. The kids are doing better. They're learning to read. They're getting their literacy in preschool. And so now Garrett we have a couple of questions here.
So we have like 6 minutes left. And so
I'm just going to talk really quick about, Angela and I work on we're team co-leads for the district. And I just wanted to say one thing that maybe we're not hitting really, really well is just this last year. So remember, there's been 5 years that we've been working on this. And it's really been, you're like, what about transitioning towards elementary? One thing to remember is it's the buy-in happened in preschool. We're just starting to get buy-in in elementaries. And one thing we did I think it was just this last year, we just started it, right? We had so our preschool students don't start until September. And so we had the paraprofessionals from our speech team from the preschool go follow students who had been preschoolers moving into kindergarten, and they went with them and worked with the teachers in the kindergarten life skills classrooms as much as they could for inclusion in gen ed classrooms, but from the preschool that already knew the students for the first month as much as possible to support that transition and help the teachers get up to speed with that, which was really, really helpful this year.
Yeah, we are still early enough on. I'm gonna hold off on questions just for a minute because I'm already gonna have to skip through some of these. Because yeah, we've done like 4.5 minutes, guys. This is insane. So this is something that is still a work in process. I work with kids in the high school. We still have schools that they don't use the devices, take them away. We try to, it's not perfect. Preschool has shown that it can be successful. And so now it's implement stage 2, right? So I'm going to skip this clip. This is talking about how that reduces behavior. The teachers recognizing how much communication reduces behavior. So we're going to skip this little one. It's talking about social skills. I am going to play this because you need to hear the story.
Because he learned, this is stop, this is go, and he would make, and they would all stop. When he would touch stop, he would stop.
And all his peers respected that. And
yeah, and then they would go, and then they would wait for him to go show him again. Yeah. It was a game, and that was game. They were having fun.
It's such a bridge from non-talkers to talkers to build that social.
Mm-hmm.
Without it, they don't. The typical kids are kind of scared and don't know really, but once it bridges that communication and those social skills so that they can interact with each other.
Yeah.
So by norming it at the younger age, this is something they're now being introduced to. These kids aren't that different. They have a different way of talking, but they're really not that different for me. And it's helping them engage more socially. Also, how the kids would cheer on their peers. The teachers wait and give them a chance to answer, and the whole class waits and gives them a chance. And then when the kid says it and the teacher's like, that's right, the whole class cheers. So it's supportive. It teaches not only the ones that need the device, but it is so important for their typical peers too, to be able to be engaged in this socially. So we're going to skip this one because we just don't have enough time. Academic benefits. They echo the device. Okay, so I'm going to kind of skip some of the teachers talking. She talks about how when they're teaching the word red hits the device, red. And so as they go through, instead of being said, touch red, and they hear it one time, in her example, they hear it 6 times. Sorry, guys, I'm having to cut this really fast. This is, when teachers are modeling and the students are interested in learning, how the kids are watching, that everybody is engaged, because it's also that visual learning.
And that's what
for everybody in the classroom. It also helps them show what you know. Kerry spent a lot of time working on making some adaptive things for their testing. Like how do you show that it's their letters? How do you show that they know their numbers? How do you know that they know all these things? And so she did a lot of adaptive things. So like I had some screeners I would use, and I would go to that page, and then like, when do you go to sleep? Well, there's 77 icons on that page, but one of them is night. If the kid can find night or evening, do you think they understand that concept? 100%. It's not like it's a 1 or 2, pick 50-50 chance. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. But again, that's the back work with having that adaptive, taking that time. Let's see. Screen sharing has stopped. Well, that's rude. I didn't get to, because we have 1 minute. Okay, you guys didn't even get to see the videos with all the kids actually doing them. Dang. Okay, but thank you. Okay, questions. Anybody have questions? Because now my video's done. We got a lot of questions.
Okay, so when you were working with Proloquo, did they give you like a discount for like all the different, you were purchasing many licenses, I would assume?
Yeah, so we usually buy them during Autism Awareness Month or October. Those 2 times they go on sale. And if you buy 20 copies, you get them for half off. And in October and April, they're already half off. So we can get each license for $67.50. How do I know this? Because we've done it a lot. And I have to wait and I have to manage all my licenses until we get to that point. Did anybody else have a question?
Through AbleNet, does it come with the iPad as well?
Yes, if you fund through AbleNet, it comes in a really rigid case because it's a durable medical equipment at that time.
Is it locked in?
Yes, it is locked in. So, and we also put all of our iPads into guided access, and we're like, if we see you playing games on this, it's out of here. We're not going to do that. Like, it is only for communication. Just a minute, Allison.
Canyons is kind of in the same transition phase. How are you marking the special factors section for if you're using the devices kind of as UDL?
Yeah, if every student has access to it, every student has access to it.
Yes, exactly. So if everyone has access to it, it's not specific to that student. But once we issue them a device, and we've done the UAT report, we say this student needs a device, then we mark it.
We don't mark that without the UAT input.
Yes.
I would say if you know that the student needs it, it goes on their IEP, because then if they happen to leave you before you get them their own, then where they go knows that they need it.
So Allison, you had a question?
Get that like $500 copay versus you've got a $6,000 deductible, whatever. Have your parents paid that 500? Is the just like?
Yeah. So usually the parents do pay their deductible. Usually, like Medicaid is usually free. So if the student has Medicaid, it's really easy. If they don't, it's just case by case basis, and we just work with the parent. If they're like, we can't afford it right now, we're like, here's a device for you. Did anybody else have a question?
But even with Proloquo full price, an iPad, a case, and the $200 Proloquo
is like $700.
Yeah. So some parents have chosen to just pay that instead of we have a $2,000 copay for our insurance. So some parents will just do that. And then if the kid doesn't need it, they have an iPad.
So I guess my question is, I think Proloquo is great for the preschool, and I think it's something that works. My question is, and I know this is like focused on the preschool, but what does it look like after preschool? Because at least with students that I work with, like Proloquo helps them with their communication needs up to a certain point, and then they're ready for something a little bit more advanced. So is it Proloquo the only option in your district, or do you like advance to a different system when their needs are?
If we had to go back in time, if we had a time machine and could go back in time when we made the decision, would go with LAMP now, but we don't. And now we're so heavily invested. It's kind of like if we, you know how they keep changing reading or math programs, and all the teachers complain about that they have to learn the new system. Same thing with this. So I'm really hesitant to change, but we just do Proloquo district-wide, because I'm afraid if we change, everyone's going to be like, no, we're not, because we have so many materials, and we have talked about it.
But that being said, if a student comes in and they need LAMP, 100% we
will
support
give
LAMP.
them LAMP. Exactly.
We will get them what they need. But what we didn't get to see was all the implementation of it. Okay, so we used to do how many UAT?
Oh, like
referrals?
25 to 30 a year.
So if we only have 12 that after this early intervention needed that as a personal device, everybody else, that's that bridge.
Yep.
And so it helps get them there. And this isn't the end all. We tried to go with LAMP. LAMP did not respond. That's also part of who do you go with? You go with who's going to respond to you. LAMP responded after the commitment had already been made with Proloquo.
Yeah.
Because at first they were like, no, we're not going to give you any discounts. We're not going to work with you. We're not going to do anything. And then they were like, oh. But by then it was too late. And so you kind of do that too.
And we probably need to clear out for the next speaker, right? So if you guys have questions, we'll just come. Oh, iGaze got canceled?
Well, no.
Oh, they were in here?
So
No.
if anybody wants to watch the rest of the videos, we could send them up in the eye gaze room.
You guys, yeah.
Because they're a lot of fun. Thank you for the technology. Thank you to our technology people who made it work.